everybody. Welcome to the very first episode with me as your ScreenFlowLive host. My name is Lucas Bischofberger. I am the ScreenFlow product evangelist. I know if you've been here before, you've been watching Andrew host this show, and Andrew has moved a little bit more towards the Wirecast thing, and I've come in here. And I actually was, before Andrew was hired as a product evangelist, I was doing most of the ScreenFlow stuff. So you'll see my fingerprints throughout the entire website for ScreenFlow, and preferably a little bit more going forward as well. When it comes to ScreenFlowLive for today, I gotta tell you, I don't know exactly where I want to go with ScreenFlowLive going forward. This is episode 1. We've got a clean slate. We can start with really anything we want, and I want to make sure that what I'm doing is in line with what you guys want. And I'm going to say this multiple times throughout, but if you could comment here or comment once we post this on YouTube, or contact us in any way possible to give us some information about what it is that you want to be seeing here. I can do tutorials, I can bring in people, and we can do interviews. I mean, the options are really endless when it comes to what this show can be about. But what I thought I would do today is just give you a little bit of background into who I am, what I do here at Telestream, the progress that I've made when it comes to editing video and doing screen recordings, and really my relationship with ScreenFlow and Telestream as well. So if you have any questions, be sure to put them in the comments. And I'm not sure how long today's show is going to be. It's gonna go as long as it takes for me to feel like I've expressed to you who I am and what I do here, and my strengths and weaknesses when it comes to using ScreenFlow and editing in general. So I'm going to take a quick sip of water, and we're going to jump right in. Also, one thing I wanted to point out, my eyes don't usually look like this. I know they look a little bit like demon eyes. It's because my eyes are the same color as the green screen, so they get chroma keyed out a little bit. So I got some crazy looking eyes at the moment. But yeah, the first thing I want to do is just tell you a little bit about how I became the product evangelist for ScreenFlow, how I started making videos here at Telestream. And I'm going to show you some of the videos that I've made here and kind of walk you through a little bit what I was thinking when I made them. And I'm going to be holding this up to my head here. These are just my headphones so I can hear what's going on. But I've made a lot of different kinds of videos. I focus mainly on tutorial videos for our software, but that wasn't actually the first thing I ever did. So the first video that I ever made was for another product that we make called Switch. And just to let you know, all of the videos that I'm going to be showing you, I made in ScreenFlow. I have experience with lots of different editors, namely Final Cut and Adobe Premiere, but at the end of the day, I really just do use ScreenFlow more than anything, just because it takes care of exactly what I need, and I don't have to worry about the complexity of other programs, because in general, what I need is really easily taken care of with ScreenFlow. So this is the very first video, and I'm probably going to feel a little uncomfortable going through all these videos, by the way, because it's always hard to look back on the content that you've created and watch with other people. But here we go. This is the first video I ever created at Telestream using ScreenFlow. Here we go. And we don't have to watch the whole thing. I just want to give you an idea. Just want to make sure you guys can hear this. I'm going to bump the volume up a little bit. We getting good sound there, Deborah Lee? I'm still going with it. Hey, let me know in the comments, guys. I haven't seen any comments, if you can hear what's going on in the background. But the idea here is that, Trevor, are we getting sound there? I mean, the audio's going. Anyways, what you're seeing here in the background is I just sat down with Sean Carnahan. He's our CTO here. And I just had a camera, and I had a little microphone next to him, and I was recording him for a couple days and got probably about 2 hours worth of footage of him talking. And then I did something very simple. I broke it down into bite-sized chunks, little things, little quips that I thought he said that were important, and I interspersed it with a black screen and some text. So that was the very first video that I made when I was working here at ScreenFlow, or at Telestream, and it kind of just launched me into this product evangelist career where I've been making all sorts of videos. I then went on to make a lot of ScreenFlow videos and Wirecast videos, if you guys know our other products. And let me see here if we can do some of these videos. This is was for the release of ScreenFlow 5, I believe. With expanded recording options, you can see this is there's a picture of me. This is an extremely different video than the last video that I made. This one has a pre-recorded script that I wrote and a pre-recorded voiceover and then a screen recording. And the way that you make these videos is significantly different than the one that I made before. This requires a lot of planning and a lot of timing, and then making sure that when you do the screen recording it matches the audio that you've done, or vice versa, whichever way you want to go about it. And this is kind of what I started doing for a really long time. There's a fun part of the video. You can always have a little bit of fun with the videos that you're making. So that was my ScreenFlow. Then I started doing things with Wirecast, and I started wanting to make more animations using ScreenFlow. And so if we go to the Wirecast software here, let's do Wirecast 6 and earlier. And I started this Wirecast tutorial series, and some of the videos have been revamped. I made probably about 15 of them, but they've disappeared over time. But I started adding in a lot more production value, and you can see at the beginning of each one of these videos, there's a quick animation with some music in the background, just kind of introducing you to the topic at hand. So let's watch one of these really fast. So that right there, that was 3 seconds. That was very simple, but for me that was a big breakthrough, because I realized that having a fun, interactive, quick intro to a video can be very powerful. In the past I would just bring on a picture and then get rid of it. And this one added a bit of dynamic movement to it and some fun music in the background. And then you see it just jumps right into a screen recording. And then over time I started moving from ScreenFlow to Wirecast, and I've been working recently on a project called Game Show, which is live streaming for gamers, if you guys have heard of that. And I made a huge tutorial video series. So you can see here I've got a ton of videos. We did multiple webinars. Every time we have a new version, I send out a new video covering what's new in that particular version. But these videos have been significantly different in that they are not scripted. They are tutorial videos. They're a lot more like what you're watching right now, where I'm just sitting here on top of the screen. I have the chroma keyed background, and I'm one-on-one essentially with the person, even though you guys aren't really there. You're watching these videos on demand. So let me show you what I mean here. This was made when I had a really long beard, so don't laugh at me here. Let's see. Let's do adding a chat widget. Let me create some green dye. So we have an introduction here, and then you can see how. Hey everybody, in this video I'm showing you how to add a chat widget into. And this is the most recent stuff that I've been doing in terms of tutorial videos. I felt like for the community that this was a part of, having someone there talking to them was very important. And it's just here to teach people how to use this media. And as you can see, this looks very, very similar to what I'm doing right now. I'm here in front of the screen and talking about the software. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. Since I've been working here at Telestream, I've been making all sorts of videos. I've been doing live shows. I stream every Friday for the Game Show. And my experience with video editing is mainly on the tutorial video side. That doesn't mean that I can't do other things, but that's what I'm most comfortable with. That's where I've spent a lot of my time. We have a sound booth here where I can sit down and pre-record all my audio and make sure everything sounds perfect and line things up. And I've done different types of videos over the past couple of years here. And so I hopefully, with ScreenFlowLive, every first Wednesday of every month at 2:30, just in case you didn't know that's what today was. I want to be able to bring some of this knowledge that I have and teach you guys, but also push myself to learn new things so that I can teach you guys how to, not just how to use ScreenFlow. Like I use ScreenFlow, but I think more so than just using ScreenFlow, there's a really big need to just learn how to be better video creators. And that's what ScreenFlow can allow you to do. And hopefully I can help you along that process and learn myself. Um, I also don't really know how this format works. I've never done any Facebook live streaming. I don't know how many people come to watch. I'm not sure what you guys are looking for. So any sort of feedback from you to tell me what I can do to make things better for you would be just absolutely fantastic. I'm looking here and we have no comments. I got no feedback from you guys. So if you don't tell me what you want, it's going to be hard for me to turn that into useful content. But I do have some things we can go over right now, and one of them was from just last week. I think it was last week, halfway through last week. I did a webinar, and I want to show you guys what I've been working on just recently. And if you were at the webinar, I apologize. This is semi-repeated content. But I want to show you what I spent time on in that webinar, because it was more of an advanced techniques in ScreenFlow as opposed to using ScreenFlow for the very first time, which is a totally different world, by the way. Learning how to use ScreenFlow and then learning how to really maximize its potential is a totally different way of approaching this product. So really quickly, let me just show you what I made and what we worked on during that webinar. So that is just a very quick ScreenFlow GIF of the ScreenFlow logo. And what I did was I nested multiple clips in order to create this, and I added all sorts of video effects to each one of these clips. And I built them out to be what I consider to be a nice little bite size. This is like 3 1/4 seconds, 3 3/4 seconds GIF that I can export from ScreenFlow and use in social media. So whether you are doing, the type of content that is created with ScreenFlow runs the gamut. And I don't know exactly what everyone's going to be using it for. But what I use it for is marketing. And I think a lot of you may be doing that too. Maybe you have a small business, or maybe you work for a corporation, but you're creating content for that, hosting it on YouTube, Vimeo, any sort of Wistia is a place that we export to. Those guys are great, by the way. If you ever want to see really good videos, go check out Wistia. They taught me a lot, actually, when I started making a lot of videos. But you can, depending on what you're doing, ScreenFlow can do a lot of things for you. And creating GIFs to host on social media, that's all the rage. People want those little tiny bite-sized snippets of information. So that's what I did here. So I'm not going to go as in-depth as I did when I did the webinar, because that was over an hour long. And I don't think today we're going to go that long at all. But as you can see, I have, if I come over here to this ScreenFlow logo, you can also see over in my media library that each one of these elements was placed there individually, and I built it out. So as I cycle through, that looks like the box there in the middle. This is my reel on the right, my reel on the left. This is the lens, and then the blue circle. So I took each one of these elements in individually, lined them up to create the ScreenFlow logo, and then I gave them each an animation. So at the beginning there was nothing. This animation brought the blue circle in the background from 0 to almost bigger than my screen, as you can see. Just pops up and then gets a little bit smaller. So I gave it a little bit of a pause there at the top to give it some weight, to make it feel like it was being affected by gravity. You can see here, whoo, and then it got smaller. And I used in each one of these clips curve types. I utilized a different curve type for each one to give it that sort of natural movement when it was getting bigger and smaller. Then for each one of these ScreenFlow icon elements, I faded them in with a transition at the beginning. I spun them around, pulled them out, let them pause there for just a second, pulled them back in and spun them around the other way. And what that did was just gave kind of an exploding and then coming back together animation of the ScreenFlow logo. So if we start from the beginning, you can see, boom, just like that. And then you can see here that I have from 1.75 more or less all the way to the end. The ScreenFlow logo doesn't do anything. I haven't told it to do anything. I don't want it to do anything. It's just sitting there. And that's because I took all of these clips and I nested them, which is a tactic that I think is underutilized in a lot of ways. It took me a while to really come to grips with when I wanted to nest clips, what I was doing once I did. And when I created that first nested clip, it gave me this. It gave me everything that you just saw, but I can now treat it as an individual element, which is really helpful if I want to then add an animation specifically to that element. As you can see here, it started bouncing off. And instead of animating every single individual part of this ScreenFlow logo, I was able to nest it, treat this all as one element, and then bounce it off to the left, make it a little bit smaller. And this was a video action that you can find up here in the video motion area. So this is the video action. This is if you want to add an individualized movement to just one thing, move it from one side of the screen to the other, or like I did, spin it around. Whereas these, the video motions, are pre-built animations that do just a little bit more than a linear movement. And you can see here how the whole thing bounces off to the left. That's because I used a gravity effect in order to achieve that. I then added a secondary element to this. I wanted to bring the ScreenFlow logo in. And you can see here what happened. Boom, just brought it in like that. It was very, very easy to do. And then it stops right there. And this, once again, was just a ScreenFlow text. But then I added another video motion to it. This one was pulse. And if I step through it real quickly, you can see how it comes up, tilts, gets small, and just falls right into place. And all of this was able to be done, once again, turned into a single clip that I can either export and use as a GIF or use as an MP4, or I can just copy and paste this entire clip and use it as the beginning of every video that I make if I want this to be my intro. So whether you're a teacher who's making content for their classrooms, or you're a marketer making content for a business, or maybe you make YouTube videos and you want an intro, you can use ScreenFlow without the screen recording aspect of it to create something like this. And this is something that took me a long time to really figure out how I wanted to do that. But in one single clip, I now have this. And there's one last important. Let's see if I stop right there, and I can delete this, delete that last part of the nested clip, make sure this still works. So what I can do now is export it as a GIF. And I think that exporting as a GIF is one of the coolest new features in ScreenFlow. I've used it quite often. I found myself, before ScreenFlow 6, using ScreenFlow 4 and ScreenFlow 5, wanting this feature in there, as well as a lot of you, and that's why we put it in, because we got a lot of feedback saying, hey, I want to be able to export my video files as a GIF. By the way, GIF, I apologize if you call it something else, but that's what I'm talking about. Once I export it, I always use motion blur with these kind of animation projects. I'm gonna export two different GIFs here, one with motion blur and one without, to show you the difference between this pretty awesome tactic. So I'm gonna keep it at 25. Well, maybe I'll make it bigger just so we can see it a little better. Let's go to 75%. Wouldn't recommend exporting your GIFs at this size. In general, people like those quick loading, small, bite-sized GIFs. And if you do it at 25%, which pulls in 480 by 720, relatively small in the internet video world, people are going to be okay with that. But I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so we can see what's going on. I'm going to call it no motion blur, and we'll send it to the desktop. As you can see, a GIF, even at 3 seconds, it's not the fastest thing in the world to export, but in general, it's going to export really quickly because there's not a whole bunch going on there. And if you guys ever want to, there's multiple ways to see your GIFs, but I've always found that just dragging it into my internet browser is a great way to do just a little bit of a preview to see what that GIF is going to look like. So here you go. Here's the GIF. Looks great, doing everything that I showed you, but I'm watching. Let's see. I'm watching the live feed of this on Facebook, and yeah, I can see that it's coming through really well, but there's a slight bit of just clunkiness and choppiness to it that I don't really enjoy. I think I can make it a little bit better. So if I go back into my ScreenFlow document, let's pull that up real fast. This time when I export it, I'm going to add motion blur to it. And that's going to make the export a little bit longer, because what it means is that any motion that you have within your video, or in this case a GIF that I'm exporting, is going to now be, if you've ever used like Photoshop and you think of like a smudge tool, you can go in and like smudge the edges a little bit, and it just kind of blends things together a little bit better. This will just kind of blend that movement and make it seem a lot smoother and a lot less formulaic and like rigid. It's kind of a softening tool for movement in your video. So let's export this, and we'll call it motion blur. And we'll see if we can see a difference when we're watching it in our browser. Give it just a second here. You can see this takes a little bit longer because ScreenFlow is doing a little bit more behind the scenes. And you might get a little bit bigger of a project, but you'll see that the final outcome is significantly nicer to watch. Excuse me. I tend to talk a lot, get a little thirsty. Just to let you guys know, Andrew's still around. I think he's probably just sitting right out there. And he is, maybe one day we'll do a little cameo with Andrew, and we can bring him back on the ScreenFlowLive. But for those of you who are wondering, why isn't Andrew doing these anymore? He's just doing other things here at Telestream. He's still part of the crew. All right, so here's the no motion blur, and then now here's the motion blur. Let's see if you can see a bit of a difference. Maybe I can make this a little bit smaller, pull this one out, and pull it over to the side. And I'm going to see what that looks like just to make sure you guys can see the difference. But over here on the right, there's no motion blur, and over here on the left, there is motion blur. So I think it's pretty easy to see the difference here. Just looks so much smoother over here on the left. Is that the left? That's the left. Over here on the left-hand side, that looks so much nicer than the one that's just above me because it's just smudged. You can especially see it on the spinning of the main box in the ScreenFlow logo. If you focus on that, and you can see how it just seems so much more natural. Gosh, I could watch this all day long. I love the difference between motion blur and no motion blur. So that's what I was saying when it comes to motion blur. The motion blur is going to look a little bit better, in my opinion, when it comes to creating some movement within your ScreenFlow documents. All right. Let's see. What else did I want to cover today? I didn't really have a whole bunch else. I wanted to just make sure that you guys knew who I was, and that when we're going forward, we have something to focus on. And right now, I don't know exactly what you guys want. When you were watching Andrew's show, he was doing lots of interviews, and maybe he would focus on certain things. I know that our next webinar is focused on sales videos, specifically how to create a good video sales letter. If you have a product that you want to sell, bringing people in, getting your message across and sending it out. So we could do stuff like that, how to create certain types of videos, how to edit certain types of content, how to create more animations, how to build something that looks like what you're watching right now, like how do I create a tutorial video with me green screened in the corner, and what are some good tactics for implementing those kinds of things. Really, I'm hoping I can get some feedback from you guys. Otherwise, I'm just going to do whatever I want. And I don't know if that's exactly what you guys want to be seeing. So, unless I get some feedback right now, I think that the best thing for me to do is hope to get some feedback from you guys going forward, whether this is on the YouTube channel or here in the chat on Facebook. I think next week, Trevor, our tech guy, was telling me that he's going to be streaming this to other destinations as well. YouTube Live, we can do Periscope. But yeah, for now, I think I just wanted to introduce myself to you, show you the kinds of videos that I've made in the past and the kinds of videos that I'm going to continue making, and just get you excited for a whole new series of ScreenFlowLive. So I'm going to be your host from here on out. I'm going to be telling you everything that I know. I'm going to be teaching myself things. Whoa. We've got our intercom in here going off. That was pretty funny. What do you know? I'm not even sure if you hear that, but it freaked me out. But yeah, for now, I'm going to sign off. Relatively quick one today just because I wanted to introduce myself. But I am your new host. I'm Lucas. I will be seeing you guys every first Monday at 2:30. We will also be doing webinars that I'll be hosting. We're thinking about maybe one every 6 weeks or so. We just did the first one. We'll be probably doing a beginner's webinar as well in the future, because I know that we always have a lot of people who want just some general tips in getting started. But yeah, the goal here is I want to become your friend. I want to be a resource you can come to, ask me questions. If I'm in the middle of a presentation and you type in a comment here in Facebook and you say, hey, Lucas, how do I do this one thing? Or how do you feel about doing this one thing? What's the best way to do this? I'm going to stop what I'm doing and I'm going to respond to you. I want this to be as back and forth as it possibly can be. So going forward, remember that I'm here to answer your questions. I'm here to be a resource for you. And I also want your feedback so we know exactly where we want to take ScreenFlowLive. All right, that was a long finish, but thanks everyone for coming today. I know it was a short episode, but we'll be doing some more hardcore content in the following months. And for now, thank you very much. I'm Lucas. Nice to meet you all, and I will see you all next month. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.